Beefmaster stud herds apply the same management principles that commercial producers apply to their herds. The purpose of this video is to share these successful principles that are applied in the breed. Applying these principles to your herd will assist you in improving your herd. The Beefmaster breed is currently the second largest beef breed in South Africa. The Beefmaster breed is known for its adaptable and fertile cows, even temper and heavy weaners, and strong, well-muscled bulls that are adaptable in the environments in South Africa. They perform in extensive areas and also in feedlots. The breed is described as a synthetic breed and performs very well in crossbreeding systems. All Beefmasters are performance tested and are inspected for functional efficiency. This course is divided into 3 sections. The first is about the considerations for choosing the correct bull. The second section concerns the attributes that should be considered in the selection of the correct heifers. The third section concerns the interpretation of the details in a Beefmaster auction catalogue. There are 2 ways that are applied to improve the genetic merit of your herd. The first application is to introduce exceptional genetics into the herd, and this is mostly by the introduction of good bulls. The second way that is done in conjunction with the first is to cull the poorer performing animal's tail of the herd. The result will be to move the normal distribution of attributes in the herd to the right or better side. Keep the simple profit calculation in mind as we move through the course. The main profit drivers involve the number of weaners sold, the heavier weaners, and the price achieved per kilogram at the time of marketing. The introduction of a good bull into your herd is always an investment for the herd. 3 generations of bull choices represent 87% of the genetics of your herd. Good bull selection is the bedrock of your herd. It's vital that well-planned selection objectives should be pursued as consistent and as accurately as possible. Only include heritable traits in your breeding objectives, with the preference of economically relevant traits. The challenge in any bull selection is to include both performance and visual characteristics in one decision. For any commercial beef producer, it's important to include both groups of characteristics in a balanced manner in a collective decision. For the stud breeder, the pedigree considerations are added to the decision. The important performance characteristics that should be considered can be listed as follows: birth mass, weaning mass, 1-year-old mass, 18-month-old mass, scrotal circumference, and the fertility record of the dam. Feed conversion and carcass characteristics can also be added to the list. Many of the visual characteristics consider the avoiding of critical aspects which can negatively affect the lifetime production of the animal. These include characteristics such as sound hooves, pasterns, good hocks, well-developed testes and normal sheaths. Good normal muscling, masculinity and walkability are also considered. The avoidance of serious deviation from the norm is recommended. The naming of the body parts on the bull are illustrated by the arrows on the slide. We are more specifically looking at the arrows pointing to the hooves and the pasterns. The hocks, testes and sheath are also primary considerations. These arrows also point to the jump muscle and the forearm, where the level of muscling can be assessed. Let's work through some of the critical areas. Many of these attributes, if faulty, can have a negative impact on the longevity of the animal. Hoof, pastern and hock traits must be evaluated. Normal testes are acceptable, but extreme sheaths can be problematic. Remember to look for an undershot jaw and to ensure the nose and mouth are straight. Just to repeat the slide, take note of the naming of body parts. Professor Bonsma published these well-known sketches. The rear view of the 2 bulls shows a distinct difference. The one bull shows the desired shape and shows good muscling and masculinity. The other shows deficiencies in muscling and masculinity and is certainly undesirable. These sketches illustrate masculinity and muscling, where the bottom sketch illustrates a very ox-like appearance. Auction bulls must have a fertility certificate. There are 3 matters on the certificate. First, there is the scrotal circumference. Certain minimums are suggested for certain ages of the bull. A 3-year-old should have a testes circumference of at least 36 centimeters. The reason for this is the correlation between scrotal circumference and age of first calving of his daughters. With this in mind, it is wise to avoid bulls with small testes circumferences. Other specifics on the report is the percentage live sperm cells and the percentage of sperm cells with sound morphology. Scores of better than 70% are acceptable. Let's move on to the hooves of the animal. Good walking ability and longevity are coupled to a decent set of hooves. The growing out of hooves is undesirable. Rolling hooves or scissor hooves can cause problems. Avoid these deviations in a herd sire. Weak pasterns can cause poor walking ability and adversely affect longevity. If the pasterns are too weak, the pastern may even touch the ground. Do not be embarrassed to make a potential walk at the auction to evaluate his walking ability. When evaluating the bull from behind, a set of normal hind legs are required. Normal, bow-legged and cow-hocked are illustrated. Bow-legged are rare and cow-hocked is undesirable in a bull. The side view of a bull's legs are one of the critical areas of evaluation. Normal hocks, as on the left, are desired. When bulls are walking, it's always a good sign if they place the rear hoof in the track of the front hoof. To step fairly short of the front track is normally one of the signs of straight hocks. Bulls with straight hocks are poor walkers, and the straight is heritable, thus it should be avoided. The third sketch is of sickle hocks. It is a lot rarer, and slight sickle hocked is not a huge problem. Extreme cases should be avoided. The scrotal circumference is normally measured with a longer stick. The trait is correlated to the fertility of his daughters. It is important for a herd sire to be well developed. The guideline for a 3-year-old bull is to be at least 36 centimeters. It is important that a breeding bull shows good muscling. There are 3 places on a bull where the amount of muscling shows whether the bull is fat or not. The first is the jump muscle on the side just above and in front of the rear leg. The next is the development of the forearm, and the third is the shape of the bull from the rear. A full shape rather than flat-sided is required. Extremes are not ideal. Too little or too much is not desired. In recent times, the myostatin deviations are in the news. Genetic deviations can cause a lack of the hormone myostatin. At the carrier level or single gene level, it's not ideal. At homozygous or 2-gene level, it's definitely a problem. DNA tests are the most accurate in cases where you suspect that it is in your herd. In such cases, it is recommended to use normal bulls. Sheaths that are extreme are undesirable. The first sheath is good and indicates loose skin on the animal as well. The second sheath is approaching borderline levels. The third sheath hangs too low and is also an undesirable shape. The breed is irrelevant in this photo and is only used to illustrate an over-muscled animal. This is certainly not desirable. It is always vital to consider temperament in cattle. All observations confirm that this is highly heritable. Get rid of animals that show nervous or aggressive behavior. A rule of thumb that can be used is as follows. If you are fearful to stand in the kraal with the animal, it is probably time to remove the animal from the herd. A critical part of herd decision-making is the aspect of heifers. Your best cows you normally breed yourself. In order to pick the right heifers to one day have champion cows, there are a couple of steps we suggest. The overall objective is to have a cow that weans a good calf every year. Proper heifer management can greatly assist the pursuing of this objective. The process begins at weaning and follows some steps. Children need to pass a series of tests and exams at school. Heifers also need to pass tests in order to achieve our objectives. The first test is at weaning, where the poor heifers and those with undesirable traits are culled from the herd. The second test is at 1 year of age, where the weights will indicate if she is on track to achieving her target mass when she eventually goes to the bull. The dropouts are to be removed from the herd. The third test takes place at first mating. The heifer should go to the bull at least a month before the cows. About 4 months after the start of the mating season, pregnancy tests should be done. It is recommended that the non-pregnant heifers be removed from the breeding herd. It is good practice to overmate, or mate more heifers than needed in order to be able to select the best ones. The rest can be marketed. Preference may be given to those getting pregnant earlier in the mating season. After her first calving, she must fall pregnant again. This fourth test is her toughest one. In tough seasons, these young mothers should be closely monitored and cared for. Her final test is that her calf must compare favorably with her contemporaries and she must be pregnant again. The final result is a fertile female that can be successful in the herd. To combine the performance data of an animal together with the visual appraisal into one single decision is not always easy. Avoid rushing this decision, and if you are unsure, get someone to assist you. The suggested process is to work through the auction catalogue and to eliminate the animals that do not fit into your breeding objective. Mark animals that interest you, especially those that show potential in the areas of fertility and growth. On the morning of the auction, work through the animals that you have marked. Choose the animals that may fit into your herd. Your budget will also guide you in this auction. Credible breeders make this task easier. A typical Beefmaster catalogue can be described as follows. The top block refers to the details of the animal's identification, stud book section, date of birth, breeder, and owner. This block refers to the DNA tests that have been done on the animal. Sire verification, parentage verification, genomic analysis, and possible genetic deviations. This is the QR code of the animal. Use the QR application on your phone. This will take you to SA Bulls, where there will be more info available. This block refers to the pedigree of the animal. Breeders often study this part of the catalogue well. These blocks indicate the fertility records of dams or grand dams in the animal's pedigree. The number of calves and the intercalving period is shown here. It is sometimes tricky to interpret the performance values. Let's go through them step by step. Calving ease refers to smaller calves that have a value of greater than 100. Milk refers to cows that have more milk and better mothering abilities and will have a value of above 100. Calf growth. Better growers have a value of more than 100. Maintenance refers to a value for mature mass, where above 100 refers to animals with lower than average mature mass. Fertility refers to cows calving earlier and more regularly and have values above 100. Star values are a quick way to express these values. 3 stars refer to values from 100 to 109. If your objective is heavier weaners, ensure that animals should have at least 3 stars and more. An indication of the accuracy is also expressed. Below 30%, there is very little data available. Above 30%, the animal has at least its own data and is just an indication. When the figure is above 60%, there is a lot more information. There is some progeny data and other pedigree data available. The selection values are combinations of values to make choices much easier. Cow value. A positive merit in this case refers to the genetic potential to breed daughters that are fertile, easy calving, have heavier calves at weaning with good milk, and a maintenance value that is not too high. When replacement heifers are part of your objective, it is a very good index to use. Growth value refers to the potential growth value after weaning. Production value is the combination of cow and growth value. Your challenge is now to combine the performance values with the visual appearance of the animal. Good luck, and may you get the desired Beefmasters for your herd. This video was produced by Beefmaster SA.